Good afternoon and welcome to our webinar today. The webinar is titled Ditch the Paperwork and Save Time and Reduce Teacher Stress with SPEDup. My name is Candace Lewis and I am the VP of Client Relations and Operations at Spedster. And I also want to introduce our VP of Strategic Initiatives, Lily Rivas. So before we get started, I would like to direct you to the polling questions that are on your screen. Please take a few minutes to answer the questions, and we will review those near the end of our session today. For this webinar, all microphones and cameras are muted. However, we welcome you to ask questions by typing them in the questions section located at the bottom right of your screen. All questions will be answered during our Q&A section at the end of the conversation today. Lastly, I want to let you know that this webinar is being recorded and we will send all registrants the link within 24 hours so that you can watch it on demand. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Today we have Spedster CEO and founder, Dr. Kurt Hewlett. He will be talking with Mary Kay, who's the founder of SPEDup, and she currently serves as an SDI special education teacher. And also we have Maxie St. Cyr, who is the co-founder of SPEDup, and she's a retired SDI special ed teacher and now serves as a new teacher collaborative coach. So Kurt, at this time, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Candace. Super excited to be here with Mary Kay and Ms. Maxie. I got to draw attention to me what's the most exciting. One of my gripes over the years with the proliferation of ed tech companies and products is, and it would surprise folks, how many of the companies, the products are developed by people who have never been in a classroom to begin with, let alone a special ed classroom. And you two are in classrooms. One, I believe it used to be yours, Maxie, and Mary Kay, it is now your classroom.
Yes.
So
we are literally in the classroom. So.
Literally. So if we hear
eating,
like
sleeping, yes.
Yeah. So if we see like French fries or, random kids running through, we'll know why.
Yes. Yeah, right.
But I don't think there's anything more valuable, impactful as far as having actual teachers designing applications for other teachers, because it's rarely the function as much as the system, the support, the approach that people use. And I think that's why SPEDup is having such an impact and why so many people are having such a positive reaction to it is because of you two. But let's jump right into it. And we're going to put Mary Kay on the hot seat here. So Mary Kay, why SPEDup, which by the way, sounds a lot like Fed Up. So I don't know if there's any tie-in there, but why did you create this? Why did you guys come to the market with SPEDup?
Well, thank you. And thanks for the introduction, Kurt. It was me coming home every night with literal stacks that I was manually inputting all of my ABC data to build my case that my student needed more support, what those supports needed to be. And it was taking hours and hours of manually entering data. And so it was, we've got to come up with a solution. What is this? So I talked to my husband, I talked to Maxie, and we were like, let's create a form where we can do it on an app, in an app base. So that is where SPEDup started. And we started it actually before COVID. And then, COVID hit and that kind of stopped everything because no one was taking data while we were teaching via webs and websites. So we are now back fully launched. We are in multiple districts and we are rocking and rolling. And we are able to use it. I'm using it every single day. I'm able to use it to save my time, my energy, and automatically I have that paper of stacks I was manually entering is now done in seconds. So it's a true saver for all special education teachers.
Very cool. So give us a little overview of the basic concept as well as, kind of high level. What does the program do and why is it unique?
It is very unique because we have found that so many schools and districts do not have a standardized ABC form. Some teachers are great at taking the data of the antecedents and really trying to find out, what is triggering that student and what the behaviors are. But other schools are not. So we have created this app that allows you to be very streamlined with our universal accepted ABC form with the antecedents, consequences, and behaviors. And we're able to really dig down and look at the data. It is all on app based. So it's either on your phone or your tablet. So it can go out to the playground with the teacher. It can go to the classrooms. Then you can also pull a report with any of that data. So you can get a week snapshot. You can get a 9-week snapshot for report cards. If you need to pull and dig a little deeper for an FBA, you're able to pull for 2 weeks or even a month's worth of data for that FBA. So you're able to get a lot of information very, very quickly. It's secure, it's safe, and it's saving a lot of time. And it's easy, very, very easy to use. We created it to make sure that the classroom teacher that has been in the classroom for 25 years can use it, as well as the first year teacher who is fresh out of college and loves technology.
So let's put Maxie on the hot seat here. We haven't given her a chance to have to wiggle in her chair and stress a little bit. So Maxie.
Cool, I don't know what you're talking about.
So Maxie, tell me, why ABC data? And let me give you a little bit of a, explanation behind the question. Most apps I've seen that do anything with behavior, it'll take frequency of different behaviors. It might track a basic BIP, but it's very basic data. I have seen very few approaches that even address ABC data. And to me, that's a part of what makes you all really unique. And it's not simply to track goals and comply. It's to help teachers really have an impact. So why ABC data?
Yeah, exactly. Behavior is the way kids communicate. And, when they're exhibiting behaviors, there's a reason why. And so we need to figure that out. And that's what ABC data does. It, drills down into what was the function of the behavior. When we can figure that out through, quick assessment of data, then we can begin to, make the programs for students. We can, figure out what they need, what their accomplishments to be in order to, make the student more successful and to build, the program that kid needs. So, that's the whole purpose of ABC data, is figuring out, what is driving those behaviors so the student can become more successful.
So tell me, there's always concern about compliance in our industry. And I've always seen that as kind of the low bar. And with you guys, your focus is on impacting kids and helping those teachers make a difference. So how does it make a difference with the teachers, when they're looking at ABC data versus just compliance? They're looking at the function of the behavior. What have you noticed really makes a teacher, perform better with this type of technology, whether it's looking at the antecedents or being aware of the consequences or determining those? Again, right. How does it help?
Yeah, I was talking to a teacher about a week ago, and she said, I've had the ABC data stacks of paper on my desk in the past. And she goes, I have all the information I need right there, but I don't really have access to it unless I'm digging through it and looking. And then I can't really see a trend. She said, now with SPEDup, I can run a report in like 5 seconds. And all of my trends are there for me to see. Oh, okay, this is occurring, at 8:30 every day, or this is occurring during math every day. And she said, I don't have to dig through. I just can see, where the problems lie. And she said, I feel so empowered because it's easy for me to know, what's happening with my kids.
Well, and what I love about that and the awareness of that, I think, and maybe because it's been 50 years since the passage of IDEA, we've forgotten the intent of IEPs, FBAs, BIPs, why we collect data. And, you think about it, I've been in IEP meetings when, folks will ask for documentation and there's this stack of daily reports that are sitting in a file and the teacher shares it. Well, just like that one teacher indicated, if it's not graphed and you can't see a trend, you can't mark where interventions are put in place. If you can't look at the times of behaviors, you can't analyze it and make a change. So at the end of the day, if you're collecting data just to collect it, we're actually harming the teacher because that's valuable time they could be doing something else.
Absolutely.
So, and I think that's a big piece. And, and Mary Kay, as somebody who's in the classroom, tell me about how it helps you make either in-time decisions or adjust your approach to different kids depending on, particularly the externalizing behaviors that you're seeing.
So yes, absolutely. I'm able to use it. Well, I use it every day throughout the day. So, and I have all of my teachers are also using it. So whatever information they have on one of my students in the classroom, it transfers, it follows that student. So I can also show you on our dashboard what I look at. So whenever I'm looking at our students, and I'll share my screen in just a second. So we can see that their trend is in the morning. So that means that I know that we're going to put some additional implementation and some support there. If they are always upset after recess, well, we're going to make sure that we're transitioning and I have support for them during that time. So it's a quick way for me to see where there's a big need so we can provide support immediately and not wait until the annual ARD, not wait until the 9 weeks, because I can see that trend week to week. So I'm going to share my screen so you can kind of see what our dashboard looks like.
While she's doing that, I just thought of, I had a teacher that I spoke with, and she said her gen ed teachers and her specials teachers, they feel so empowered because they used to fill out the ABC sheets, and then that was it. They never knew, they never saw their information or their data or, how that was helping their students. But now they can go into the app and they can see, oh, there's all of my data, and there's the music teacher's data, and there's the contact teacher's data, and here's what we're all doing together. And she said, we feel like we're so much better able to collaborate for the students instead of just filling out the papers and then where does that go? We never see it again.
That's right.
Why that's happening.
The never-ending screen. We've all seen that. Look, there's so many Mary Kays.
Is it?
Yeah, now it's behind you.
It's
so
in the background.
that's a positive. You can just do that number,
All right, we're gonna do this. This is awesome.
Oh, you're such a teacher. That's perfect.
Oh my goodness, here we go. I have it on my presentation.
You're like a weather girl.
All right, so I have no idea what I've done. So we're just gonna roll with it, okay?
Go, Vanna.
So we have our student. And with our sample student, I automatically have our dates I've put in. I can see their average duration. I know that the student has had 5 maladaptives, 3 non-compliance, 2 physical aggressions, 2 elopements, and 1 self-injurious behavior, along with 3 interventions. And then I can look a little bit deeper at my ABC analysis, and I can look here, and I can see, 8:30 to 8:45 is a big time. So I would definitely want to look at that a little bit more deeper. We also have it so you can look at it chart view. I know some people like to have a chart, and we can change it to our spreadsheets and we can dig down and look at them trying to get away from something, trying to get something, anything that's a self-stimulation or escaping pain. So one of those 4 things that are part of the antecedents. And then we also have the durations. So you can have a quick look at the dates, the time the duration was it a physical aggression, the intensity of that physical aggression, the maladaptives, non-compliance. So you can see a quick snapshot of that student's behavior just by running a quick report.
And how are the teachers getting it into the system?
It is a very easy system that they can use on a dashboard and through the website. For our teachers that at Louisville ISD, they have been able to put it on their dashboard. For those that are at different districts, they can either put it on their dashboard, or we have on our website the admin dashboard that I just clicked on. So they would just be able to put in their email address and password, and then they would have access to their students.
So do they collect it during the class and then input it into the system, or?
Good question. It is actually going to be done automatically for them. And I'm going to unshare my screen here in just a second so you don't have to see so many of me.
Do you want Candace to share those slides maybe
Yes.
so we can see the app?
Yes, Candace, if you would share those slides. So everything is actually done on my phone as an app. And she's going to share some slides, but I have just the app SPEDup, and they're able to open it, and we're going to show some pictures of the app because it's completely on either our app or on an iPad, or we also have it through Google, so they could be on a different tablet as well. So you have your ABC data in the home screen, and I'll let you go ahead and finish through these.
Yeah, it needed to be super easy and easy to access and easy to work through. So this is the home screen. When teachers and staff open up the app, they see this home screen. You can see the arrow on the left is pointing to the ABC report. So when they have a behavior event happening, they open the app and they click ABC report, and that's all there is to it. Their ABC form opens up. The other one is for intervention. If they need to make an intervention report, same thing. They just click on intervention, and it will link to an ABC report that they have run for a student. So Candace, you want to go to the next one? When that report opens up, it's the standard ABC report. They enter in the student name, and it auto timestamps when the behavior began. And then the teacher can come back to that later when it's more convenient, or they can complete it in the moment if they're able. It has drop-down menus to make it super easy for teachers. Once they've entered a student in, once they start typing it, then they'll see that student. The data is consistent because if you cannot submit a report unless it's complete. So that takes away errors, takes away inconsistencies, so that we are ensuring that all of our data is correct.
There's a number of times where I'd have a piece of paper that didn't have an end time, or it had 2 antecedents, and then I would have to tell the teacher, well, I can't use this because it's not complete. So we've taken that error out, that human error is removed so that we can have accurate data.
Yep.
I absolutely love it.
Nice. The next one is the intervention report, and it's quite similar to the ABC report. It's a bit shorter. It links to the ABC report so you can know, okay, this intervention is occurring because of a behavior that happened. It also tracks the out of class time so that we can keep track of when kids are not receiving their programming, because that's important. So it automatically keeps track of that. And the next one. We wanted a way to be able to have just a quick snapshot of how the data is looking. So teachers and staff can go into their app. They can click on antecedents for a student, and they can see, oh, okay, like 85% of the time, the antecedent is when they're told no, or 55% of the time it's when they're trying to get something. So it's a quick way for us to see, what is the most common antecedent. That is a great tool to use for parent conferencing, for MTSS, all kinds of different things that we can use that for. It's just a very quick snapshot. It's a great visual for parents to see. And then the last slide is the behavior graphs, which is similar to the antecedents, the quick snapshot. So you can see what those behaviors are resulting from the antecedents. So that's just 5 quick snapshots or quick slides of how the app looks. And that's where all of the ABC data is generated.
Wow. I love the simplicity, ease of use, straightforward. Another piece I would imagine this could be really powerful in is, unfortunately, we have rising litigation and all sorts of due process issues, filing state complaints. And at the end of the day, it all comes back to progress monitoring and having data. And when I think of, even areas outside of just progress monitoring, but placement decisions, when it's contested, when and how do we remove a child from, say, inclusion to place them in a more restrictive environment? Well, we all know we're supposed to use data, but data is actually rarely available. And that's what often gets school districts in an awful lot of trouble, is they know what they intuitively know and that what they know from observation, but they can't always back their decision with data. And it would seem to me, for example, if we're trying to make a decision at the end of the year about a child who's having behavioral issues, and we can show data of increasing behaviors with increasing intensity of supports, interventions, and where we've tried a number of different interventions to no avail, that would be really powerful in helping to make that data-driven decision, as well as having the documentation to support that decision.
Absolutely. And that's something that we do on a daily basis, and it is so powerful. And I tell my gen ed teachers, I'm like, it's data or it didn't happen. So they know that unless we do the ABC, they can be screaming off the rooftops that this kid is being so difficult, they're always defiant. And I have to tell them, unless I see the data, there's nothing that we can do. So we make sure that they do the data, and then we can put in and we can implement the support systems that student desperately needs. So we definitely want to provide for the students, but we want to have facts, not opinions. And the ABC on SPEDup provides that fact instead of having an opinion.
Now, I would also imagine, although I'm glad it's not designed specifically for these functions, but I would imagine, when it comes to BIPs and goals, again, the great majority of time when pressed, school districts are not able to produce, the actual data that was collected to show implementation and all of that. I can see a lot of ways that this would really help in tracking that BIP, determining if it's successful and whether or not changes need to be made, as well as applying to the great majority of behavioral goals, because the great majority is about decreasing one behavior and the likelihood of it, and increasing other behaviors to replace it and the likelihood of that happening. So is that what you're finding?
Yes, it is what I'm finding. I can see that a lot of the implementation and the social skills that I've been putting in place are working, as the trend line of the behaviors and the trend line of the ABCs are decreasing. So it's one of those where there are successes, and it's very exciting to see the trend line going down because we're seeing the success in the classroom.
And let me ask you this, Maxie, as a longtime veteran. One of the things I remember as a special ed teacher is that, you start the year with a really good, clear plate. And, again, you've got all this great information in your head, the IEPs. And then once you move into the year, a lot of times, I'm not saying you become blind to antecedents or consequences, but, you can get into just reacting to kids. And especially if you're dealing with intense behaviors. And I've seen it where the teachers can actually cause some of those behaviors. I would imagine, when you're inundated and you're working crazy hours, that data like this can help you take that step back and just evaluate what is happening and what is causing it. And then there's probably a lot of aha moments that happen when they start looking at these data points. Have you found that at all, Maxie?
Absolutely. Most definitely. It takes the emotionality out of it, and it's just data. It does, like you said, it helps you step back and go, okay, that's why this is occurring. And it also makes you hopeful, like, okay, now I know what to do. Now I can come up with strategies, and then we're all going to feel better. The kids are going to feel better. I'm going to feel better. It's just a great tool.
Well, and I'd also imagine, and this is to both of you, that there are a number of secondary and tertiary benefits that you may not have immediately intended, but you're seeing. So one of the things I found is when special educators have data at an IEP meeting, they tend to sit up a little straighter. They're a little
Oh, for
more
sure.
confident. And when that parent is asking, tough questions, or anybody at that table is, it just helps them feel better and more confident in their work. Have you guys found any of that?
Absolutely. I think we find it both in those difficult conversations with parents or with district and during a staffing for a student, as well as a lot of schools now, and my school included, that we're using it in our MTSS. So it's our gen ed teachers are also using it. So they're able to go to those parents and have those difficult conversations in an MTSS meeting with data, which they've not had that before. So this is kind of a new tool that we didn't intend. We started this for special ed teachers, but the crisis of behavior is growing. So we are sharing it with as many educators as possible, so that way they can also have access and they can use the data to help get those students the support they need.
So let's talk a little bit about the impact of that and just data. I also think about parents who are concerned, frustrated, and behavioral issues, are probably the leading cause of stress and anxiety among educators as well as parents. It just can be really challenging. And I would imagine when you sit down with a parent at an IEP and they're a bit frustrated, and you start discussing data and you start discussing, well, we're actually seeing that behavior frequency 5 to 6 times in that half-hour period versus the end of the day. In this class, we actually only see it 1 to 2 times. When you start being more analytical and didactic and you've got the data, tell me about the impact that parent has. Does it tend to calm them? Does it build confidence? What does that dynamic look like?
Yes, it definitely gives them they're actually invested in my child, because they can't just come in and they're not complaining about the child. They're saying this is what's going on during this time period. So it's facts. And parents tend to listen to facts more. And then you can really dig down and say, all right, if we're seeing a trend that every time little Johnny is struggling in math, well, let's start building some interventions during his math time. So even before they go into special ed, that's just in the MTSS, they're able to implement some great interventions right then and there with the data that they're gaining. And the parents are very receptive to that. And if behaviors continue, then the next conversation of if and when they need to recommend any special education testing for them, then the parents, again, are more receptive because they can see that there's been a trend, there's been some data, that maybe there is some additional testing that might need to be taken place.
So you mentioned earlier Louisville, which I'm familiar with a few of the educators there. And for those of you who aren't familiar, Louisville is just a top tier school district, fantastic educators, and they have a very high bar, both on the parent side as well as the educator side. And so I know when, and Louisville's good size, when you're implementing a program, and Louisville's kind of a good test case, it can be hard to implement. It can be a challenge to integrate. Sometimes they have IEP systems they want the data to talk to. Can you tell me about kind of the implementation, or, what have you learned along the way that you've learned really works or doesn't work, or, how does that go with a mature, really high-end school district?
Right. Yeah. One approach that Louisville did was they didn't mandate SPEDup right from the beginning. They presented it like, here's an amazing tool that we want to utilize. And so we found that some schools jumped right in and some schools didn't. And along the way, like it seems like almost weekly, we're getting emails from another school. Hey, we're ready to get started. How can you, help us out? Because they're hearing other teachers, say wonderful things about it. So, and then we have other districts that'll start with just one school and they don't make it available to any other schools. And they just want to, because it's hard to jump in to something that you don't know. especially if, like Louisville has 70 something campuses, but they just went for it, but, other districts want to take it slower, which is fine. We're all about proving our value and our effectiveness for, our tool. And, it naturally evolves into, wow, this is amazing. We want to add everybody to it.
And that sounds like very wise leadership, letting them come to it versus forcing it, on your educators and one more tool. But it's also, to me, it's just probably the most important area. You mentioned the behavior crisis. I think of the mental health crisis, that it's just exploding as far as our awareness of the needs that have always been there. But what I'm always blown away by is the number of districts, and massive districts, billion-dollar budgets, who I was talking to one last week. They do not have a single software to track data, to graph trends. And I just, well, and I just sit there and I think to myself, how are you folks doing this? Like, it's such a Herculean task doing it all. And, to not have the tools and resources when they're now available, and I just think of the positive impact it can have on educators. I always thought about it from the kids' viewpoint, but now, we have to take care of our teachers, and we're losing good teachers. And, it sounds like ease of use is one of the great benefits.
Yeah, one great thing that I am hearing from special ed directors is that, they're asking, are you tied to another program? Do we need to interface SPEDup with other programs that we use? And no, we are not tied to anything. And they're often quite relieved, because that makes it so much easier to implement. You don't have to, have the two systems talking. We're completely separate.
Well, and what's really nice about that, it's funny, over the years, I started in this field in the mid 90s as a teacher, so I've been there a minute. And it was interesting when ed tech and digital products started coming in, there was never discussions around integration, data movement, ease of use, and incorporation into a system. And now what I have found is it's one of the primary questions that's also driven by teachers, because what occurs is if you get an app that requires that the teacher copy and paste every goal into the new system in order to utilize it, that work falls on the teachers. So now what you're talking about is not a small tech issue. It's a huge teacher issue. And so I think having a program that was thoughtfully designed by two teachers, which makes sense, that doesn't require a bunch of heavy lifting is huge, because all these districts use different systems. And so I think sometimes they're designed not to talk to others, so that they keep everything inside. So I think it makes a difference. But here's the most important question to me: has this made you all better educators? This journey with SPEDup?
I definitely think so, because it's freed me to spend more time with my students.
Yeah.
Because I'm not having to think about, during my conference time, I've got to go do a whole bunch of trend lines. Well, no, I know I'm going to run a report at the end of the day, and that's fine. So I can go spend more time with my students. And at home, I can be my wife. I can be the wife that I am to my husband, and I can be the mother to my child, and I'm not spending so much time. So it's made me a better person as an individual, because it saves so much time. So it's definitely been a huge impact for both as an educator and a mom.
Decreasing your stress.
Yes, definitely decreases my stress.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So, I think just the work you guys are doing is so essential, and there's probably very little that's more important relative to the special ed process, legalities, and just positive, solid implementations. So we're actually getting close to the end of this piece of it before we go to questions, but is there any additional insights, information, anything you guys would like to share before we move into questions?
Additional insights. I just, everywhere I go, teachers will stop me if I happen to be on a campus, and they're like, "Oh, you're the SPEDup person. Thank you so much." And they just look like they're so thankful and relieved. And, that's been amazing to see.
I love that. Mary Kay?
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I've had so many teachers and administrators also. I have administrators that are able to run reports now that they've never had access to before. So they're able to see kind of where the kids are in their own school, not having to rely on feedback from a teacher. So it's been huge for across the board for special ed teachers, gen ed teachers, and administrators to have that access to some key information.
Oh, that's absolutely fantastic. So one other question, IEP season gets started, February, March, somewhere in there. And of course we do them all throughout the year, but with that,
mine's year round.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's just heavier maybe in that springtime.
Oh, okay.
But I'm a special ed director. I'm watching this and I'm really interested. What are the options? Do you guys have a trial process? Do you have a sandbox people can play in? Can they get one school, many schools, one student, many students? What are the options for a special ed director?
Great question. So currently we know that education, and especially special education, is in crisis. And we have a tool that we want to support. As educators, we want to make sure that teachers have access to something that is going to implement immediately and be successful and reduce their stress, as well as provide the data. But we're here to support teachers. So we are implementing a trial for the rest of this year, free of cost for a district, which is huge, with the contingency that we would then continue for the next year. That's similar to what we've done in the past. Once a school district uses us for a year, they find that they need us forever. So then they're happy to purchase for the following year. But it's more about just helping our teachers now, because the teachers need help now. They don't need help when the budget can afford. They need help right now. So that's what we want to do is support them now.
How wonderful. Maxie, anything else or any other thing you wanted to add to that?
We're ready to get everyone started. So, when you reach out to us, it is a quick startup. Doesn't take very long at all. And we help you get rolling. We provide all the teacher training as well. So we're always here for IT support. We're very confident.
And Lily, can we put maybe their contact information in the chat? Have we done anything like that?
I will go ahead and do that.
And I just want to make sure folks know where to go, and also their website. And I know you can go to your contact information for that. We just want to make sure they have it. And I think it's time to move into questions. I haven't even checked mine. Do you guys have any on your end that came into either one of you guys, Lily or Candace?
I don't see any.
All right, let me see mine.
See, and I know that while Lily, I know she's also putting the contact information in. I think she's going to try and show the video as well. We're hoping that the video works. Audience, we tried it, and we just want to make sure that you guys can hear it. So we're going to give it one last shot. And okay, it says click for sound, Lily.
It's in there. Not sure what's going on. Let me try shutting my camera off and see if that works.
No.
It is not being helpful.
Well, let me go ahead. I do have a couple direct questions that came in. This is an interesting one. So the question is, it's from Mary. And Mary wants to know, how would I use this in a behavioral classroom with 5 to 6 kids at any one time. Can I track all the students at the same time or not?
That's a great question.
Yes, absolutely. So the great thing about the app is all you would have to do is open, start typing in their name, it auto populates, and you hit that save because that auto populates the time. So for a timestamp, and then you can just scroll down to the bottom, hit save draft, and do the same thing for another student. And then when all behaviors are done, then you could go back and close those out for whichever student you need to close them out for. So you can use it then and there. You can go back to it in a save draft, but you have that timestamp of when the behavior began, which is a huge thing because that's that main thing of what was the antecedent, when was the antecedent, and then we can go back and add what the behaviors were during that time, what the consequences were, and close it at the time that you need to. So yes, I've had many times 3 or 4 open at one time for different students. So I feel you.
Okay, well, let me go to the next question here. Looks like it's from Chrissy. And Chrissy says, I am really bad with technology and data. How hard is it to use?
Oh, Chrissy, we got you. It is not a problem at all. It is so super easy. It's really error proof, and we will help you from logging on to everything, running reports. It's super easy. I promise.
It's easier than Snapchat. I can tell you that.
Oh, there you go. Well, and I've got a couple kind of technical ones, but I'll just grab this one because I think it's the most germane and relevant. We have to upload external data into our system via Excel, CSV, and I think a couple other types of data. Can you export this data into Excel or CSV or any other formats?
So yes, we do have an export. So you can export all of the data. So all the ABC forms are exportable. So you can print them, you can export into a file. So you do have that access.
Okay. And all right, one last one, Mike D, SPED director here in Texas. And he wants to know if they can we use different forms from the district for ABC forms? He wants to know if they can use different forms that they have for their district for ABC, or I guess like align it to the forms you have. How would that work if they have a set of forms?
Currently, because of how we are trying to implement it and support as many teachers and staff members across the nation, we're limiting it to what we have that we're providing. As we grow and we're able to support more, then we can probably individualize it for districts. But at this time, we want to make sure that we're supporting more and getting, so it's a little bit more of a general ABC form with each one. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, we're also finding if there's like small things that are like something that a district needs, sometimes we can make that change and it's fine for everyone else. So we definitely work with people to figure out what their needs are.
Love it. And it's, I think a huge part of it, again, comes back to you all being special educators. And so much of this is just natural to your being because you've been doing it for so long and you know what to incorporate into a system that is going to meet the needs of teachers. And as a long-time special educator, I just want to thank you guys because I know the job's already super hard. And to spend the extra time to create something like this and bring it to market and bring it to others. And I know your customers are as happy as they can be and rave about it. So, I just want to thank you guys so much for coming on today and sharing all your information. And
Kurt, we have one more question from the audience. And this is from Amy. And Amy wants to know, if we sign up for a trial, will we lose our data when we purchase? I'm sorry, let me read that again. If we sign up for a trial, will we lose our data when we purchase?
No, the data is there from year to year and your account will stay. It will just stay active.
Perfect. Okay. So that
Well,
is
good.
great. And then I think before we wrap up, Lily wants to just do a quick review of the poll questions and just give us an idea of the percentage of how, people answered, how our audience answered the poll question.
Yes. So the first question was, what is your current role? And 100% of our participants today, our attendees, were other. So they were not a teacher, not an administrator, perhaps a parent or somebody else out there that is just interested in providing or, gaining some special ed information. Second question was, how much time are your teachers taking on interpreting the data collected for goals, progress reports, and FBAs? And we have 67% that selected 5+ hours weekly, which tells you how long they're really spending, as you said earlier, Mary Kay. And then
Time.
that's a long time. I know. That's
It's a
hours
lot.
spent away from your family. And then
Yep.
33% that spent 3 to 4 hours weekly, which is still a lot, in my opinion. And then on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being of greatest importance, how important is saving time on administrative duties to retain staff? And one person said, or 33% said 1, so they voted a 1, so of utmost importance. And then we have some people that voted on the lower scale. So we had about 33% that voted a 4 and another 33% that voted a 5. So you can see that in some cases it is important, and in some cases it was not. And then this is a great one. How much time on average do you currently spend weekly on managing paperwork? And the bulk of our participants said so many that I am completely overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And then, just a small percentage said 3 to 6 hours.
Okay.
Now, one thing I will mention, quite often when the titles don't match exactly, folks default to the other. So just so you know, we have
Right.
plenty
It
of
could be a
directors.
homeschooling group or a charter school or somebody who doesn't feel like, they fall into any of those categories. It's true.
Great. Well, Candace, do you want to take us out of here?
I do. I just want to thank everyone for joining us for the webinar today, where we learned how to ditch the paperwork and save time and reduce teacher stress with SPEDup. I want to take this time to thank Mary Kay and Maxie for joining us and having a conversation with our Dr. Kurt Hewlett today. And I just want everybody to have a great day. And again, thank you for joining us. Take care.
Take care,
Thank
y'all.
you.
Thank you
Bye.
so much. Have a wonderful day.
You too.